What's up, fam? We are back. Lighting, I didn't really check the camera before this. Lighting looks pretty yellow. Let me see if I can adjust this real quick. I don't know if that looks any better at all. Honestly, I don't think it does. I think it's mainly from this lamp. Let's see if maybe turning this off helps. Just because I think there's a decent amount of no, this actually doesn't help because there's a decent amount of natural light, but then that also makes my face dark at the same time. So the yellow light honestly is just from the lamp. We'll have to deal with it. It is what it is. But what's up, fam? Day number 3. So after the stream, we're halfway through the 6-day marathon that I'm doing. Live streaming every single day. I started on Wednesday. It's currently Friday. So today, tomorrow, the next day, and then also on New Year's Day, Monday. So New Year's Eve, I will actually do, I need to create the thumbnail and stuff for it, but I will actually do a recap of the YouTube channel, a year in review, kind of my content making journey and self-improvement journey for myself as well. And as the channel has grown, and it definitely has grown, I'm going to talk about that more in that New Year's Eve special. So look out for that. So that will be the topic of the New Year's Eve, the Sunday stream. All right. So let's go ahead and hop into today's topic. Today's actually a really good one. I talked about a little bit of mindset, a little bit of rejection and stuff, and I talked about, man, I do so many lives, I just forget what I talk about, honestly. The one two days ago. Yesterday was mindset or the rejection. The day before that, I cannot remember off the top of my head. So I have a really bad memory. Used to have really good memory, just on the important stuff. So today, so it's actually daytime, I have a dinner with my dad and some family later tonight, so that's why I'm doing the stream earlier, or else I would do it later, but don't know what exactly is going to happen tonight schedule-wise, so go ahead and knocking it out today, during the day. So today is more of a finance, money, I guess somewhat business, more like personal finance related topic. The topic is why the poor stay poor, and then you can also add why the rich stay rich. Why the poor keep getting poor, or why the poor keep getting poorer, why the rich keep getting richer. The lack of financial literacy. Now, this is a big problem in the United States. First of all, well, and throughout the world. I think it is a STEM. It's one of the STEM problems that leads to poverty and lack of success. For everyone, not just specific demographics of people, but definitely in certain demographics of people, just because education, specifically financial literacy, is absent in a lot of those people's lives. Just because their parents did stuff, their grandparents did stuff a certain way, the great-grandparents did stuff a certain way, and unless there's someone there to kind of break that chain and introduce kind of a new way of thinking, which is financial literacy, because it's a big change from the average Joe way of thinking about money and how it works, what you should do with your money. So I will hop into that, but that's the topic of tonight. And I want to start off with talking about, like, what is financial literacy? Like, people talk about it all the time. Some of you may not even know what it is. I know for a long time when I was in high school and stuff, I had no idea what it meant. What is financial literacy? Like, literacy itself, it's just like, all right, the ability to read and write, right? So most people can read and write, but like financial literacy is like knowing and understanding the ins and outs of finances and of money specifically, and how it works, how the world treats money, and why it's so important. So it's basically having a foundation and an intelligent relationship with money. So it's not enough just to know it, but you have to actually practice it as well. That's having financial literacy. You know what's going on, you know the appropriate actions to take if you're in certain situations. You're not being stupid with your money, boils down to, honestly. So I have some shocking personal finance statistics with you, just because you know me. I love my stats. This is from Saveology.com. I guess they're a financial planning company or something like that. Americans struggling financially. So I'm going to specifically focus on Americans just because I live in America. It's the U.S. and this is applicable to a lot of other countries too. But I think this is a good measure, specifically in the U.S. Maybe not of the whole entire world. I'd say you think of this, the entire world's probably worse, just because there's a lot more countries with a lot more poverty than the United States. But 13 financial statistics you need to know. So 95% of millennials are saving less than the recommended amount. Now the recommended amount, I believe it's like 10% of your earnings or something like that. We'll go ahead and I won't provide much commentary on that one specifically. All right, next one. 69% of households have less than $1,000 in emergency savings. That is crazy. When you think of, this is not individuals, this is households. So thinking of families in total, like a family that's living in an apartment or in a house or whatever, 69% of households have less than $1,000 in emergency savings. So $1,000 in savings, just cash somewhere. That is ridiculous. We certainly live in a consumeristic culture where everyone buys stuff on credit cards, and I'm not Dave Ramsey. Credit cards are actually a good thing for some people, not for all people. Credit cards for all people might actually not be a good thing. So you need to use and understand, well, first of all, understand how to use a credit card, like what it is, what the interest rates you're paying, and use it appropriately, or not use it at all if you don't have the means to pay back what you're actually spending. So that's actually crazy. 69% of households less than $1,000 in emergency savings. That's why you see whenever people get in a car accident or they have a medical emergency or they just have any emergency, whatever, they have to buy something worth $1,000. They can't cover it, and that's bad. And whenever they can't cover it, you know what they do? They buy it on a credit card. Buy now, pay later. It's only on certain items that's appropriate. All right, next one. 34% of all Americans have $0 in savings. That is pretty crazy. That source is CNBC on that. So basically, I'm probably assuming, they're basically living paycheck to paycheck, or they're living on their credit card debt. But that's really bad. 34% of Americans do better. Literally $0 in savings. So if anything happens, you're screwed pretty much. So that's why people are so stressed nowadays, because they don't have savings. All right, and 66% of millennials have zero retirement savings. That is really bad as well, because you have this thing called a 401k that automatically takes money from your paycheck pre-tax. You don't even see it coming out of your paycheck. It doesn't come out of your bank account or whatever before your company actually gives you your paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever. They'll take it out so you don't see it, so you don't really notice it, and they'll invest it and put it in a retirement account for you. Utilize your 401ks. This is unacceptable. Just because you're going to retire eventually, most people, if they have money lying around, they're probably going to spend it. That's going to go into one of my several things that poor people do to stay poor. All right, next one. 72% of households do not have a written financial plan. All right, that one's a little bit more fair, just because me personally, I don't have a written financial plan as well. Granted, I don't have a household or a family. It's just myself, single individual. So I think that's more permissible than, say, like a family. I guess in a family unit, you have expenses and stuff. Well, actually, I kind of do have a financial plan, just because I have a budget and I track everything that I spend and all the money I'm making and how much I'm making and how much I'm spending and how much I put into investments and how much those investments are growing. So I guess you technically could say I have a written financial plan. My financial plan is the easy one I mentioned in one of my lives. It's like the title of it is how to budget, or how to manage money without budgeting. So it's essentially, you follow this principle. Every single paycheck you get, you either do this automatically or you have the willpower and you have the discipline of doing this every single time you get a paycheck. But first of all, you allocate certain percentage of your income that you earn every 2 weeks or whatever your paycheck is, and you allocate it accordingly. So typically I'd say like 20% to savings, and then 10% to investing, or 15% to investing, and the rest you can spend. I'm a little bit more rigid. I try to invest a lot more and save a lot more of my paycheck. So I try to live off of actually 50% of my paycheck. I went over all of that in my other lives, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But that's how you should budget. I like that way a lot better, just because obviously there's unexpected expenses that always come up every single month. There's a plane ticket you might have to buy. There's a car repair that you didn't necessarily plan for. It happens. I think this is an easy way, but if you're really tight on money, then you're probably going to have to go item by item, category by category, setting limits for yourself. But I'm not necessarily that position, so following this loose regimen, I think is good enough for me and for most people. All right, 83% of people that set financial goals feel better about their finances after just 1 year. And that's true, just because if you have a goal and you're shooting for that goal, you can track it. I'm all about tracking. More you can track it, more you're aware. And when you actually reach your goal, you feel good about yourself. So for example, there's a trip you're wanting to go into. All right, I'm going to cut eating food. All the money I save from eating food or whatever, spending on online shopping, I'm going to allocate to this vacation fund. That way I'm actually saving money, but I was probably going to go on the vacation anyway. So in the long run, you are saving money. So having a goal, having multiple goals, whether that be a net worth goal, a savings goal, or I'm a big proponent of trying to earn as much money as you can, or even earning more money and starting some side things that could potentially earn more money. So setting goals like that, I think, is really important. Not only for your well-being physically, but financially as well. All right. This goes on to college savings, 529, accounts, insurance. I'm not going to go over all of these. 38% of households have revolving credit card debt. This is really bad. You want to pay off your credit cards every single month. Each statement, you want to pay it off in full. Don't leave a remaining balance, just because you're going to get charged interest on that. And you know what the interest is? You may start off on like 0% or 1% or whatever for the first 12 months, but it's going to jump up to like 25, maybe even 30% interest. So pay it off in full every single month. $100 million Americans have outstanding auto loans. I mean, I myself have an auto loan just because I do have the capital means to pay it off in full, but I paid half down. The reason why I chose that instead of paying off full is I had enough cash to pay half in savings, so I put down that. Also, I wanted it to be on my credit record. That way it's good for my credit score going like in the future. That way I have a bigger payment that I am meeting the obligation to and making the payments for, and I have proof of that. And it dramatically helps with your credit score and your ability to eventually secure a mortgage on a house or any other larger item. If you can show off you can pay slightly more and more expensive items or assets or whatever, then the more likely they're able to give you the money, because they know you're most likely going to pay it off. It helps me with my credit score. And then also, a lot of my other money is in investments currently, and I would have to sell off some investments in order to pay that off full in cash. So I didn't want to pay extra taxes and capital gains and stuff like that. So I resorted to pulling out an auto loan. I got a pretty good rate compared to a lot of people's rates nowadays. So I feel very comfortable having that. And I'm paying even more. So I'm paying extra. I'm paying more than the monthly payment. I don't have a super long-term loan. It's just 3 years. So that is why at least I have an auto loan. But in general, it is better to, if you're smart with your money, auto loans I think are fine. And if you put a good amount down, obviously best case scenario, if you have the cash, then pay it in cash. And if it's not going to hurt you at all. Unless you get like a super crazy good interest rate, it's like 2% or whatever. Like even me, it's like 4.9%. And then right now, if I invest that same money in treasuries, I can yield like 5.4%. So I can technically put that money to better use. All right. Outstanding loans. 43% of student borrowers aren't making their payments. Now, student loans are a very interesting subject. I might even have a total live for it by itself. I personally don't have any student loans. I was pretty fortunate to not be in that situation, and I left college with a positive net worth, which is very rare, especially nowadays. But I do understand student loans. I don't know the exact interest rates, probably like 4 or 5%, maybe even less for your student loans. But the scary thing with student loans is they follow you everywhere. Even if you declare bankruptcy, you're still on the hook for your student loans. So that's a food for thought. But I might actually do a separate live on student loans in general, and maybe even invite someone else that has a little bit more experience, a little bit more expertise on that. All right, 76% of millennials are not financially literate. It's interesting. Well, I don't know what their definition of financially literate exactly is. All right, that is all of them. And for a lot of people, that actually might be somewhat boring, you think, but it's actually crazy to think a lot of people just like the simple stuff. The simple stuff, as you get older, as you make money, and as you assume responsibilities and you acquire more liabilities and you have to pay for stuff, you realize how expensive life really gets. So if you're in college or whatever and you're like, oh, well, that's easy. It's relatively easy, and as long as you have systems set up from the beginning, and the earlier you learn this stuff, the better off you're going to be in the future. But those bills and those payments and those purchases can easily pile up very fast. I was talking with my cousin the other day, and we were talking about like one of his friends or something, and he said he has a very lavish lifestyle, so he makes a lot of money, but he also spends a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, honestly, lifestyle creep is real, and you can easily in 1 week spend a couple grand. All it takes is a plane ticket for a vacation or flying somewhere, a couple purchases for maybe for gifts or something, or a haircut or whatever, and a couple $1,000s can easily add up in purchases without even you noticing, because swiping your credit card or like clicking a button on a computer to purchase something, it's super easy. They make it super easy. All right, but the important stuff is to be aware, and I'm going to go into what are the principles of financial literacy. So they break it down. I guess there's actually 5 official ones. I tend to agree with them. So the 5 principles of financial literacy, number 1 being earn money. So earn, your ability to earn. So understanding how to earn money, how to make money. And I think this one's definitely probably the most important, just because if you don't earn any money, then you don't have any money to do anything. You can't do anything with 0. So you have to start with some positive number. So first is to earn. And honestly, for a lot of people, especially like students and stuff, it's like, all right, I'm not earning any income. How do I save money? Well, it's like you can save money, but you're probably going to have to take out a loan or something. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough if you're not earning any money. It's hard to do something with 0. That's what I say. So prioritize earning money. That's first. Securing some good paycheck. And when you're making any type of money, then that's where principle number 2 comes into play. Save and invest. So I think that's definitely very important. I think that comes number 1 after you earn a paycheck, is you immediately allocate a certain percentage to savings and then investing as well. So that is number 2. Number 3 is to protect your money. So once you have money, once you've kind of saved it, invested it, then you want to protect as much money as you can. They say it's easy to make money, but it's hard to protect it. So for example, for people that get rich or wealthy, it's a lot easier making those riches or making that wealth than it is to protect that wealth, because typically what comes with making a lot of money is you tend to spend a lot of money as well. So they have that listed as number 3. Honestly, I'd probably put it a little bit. They just have it. I don't think there's really any list here of ranking or priority. So principle number 4 is spend. So obviously you got to spend money. You have to live and stuff. Typically, like I said, as you earn more money, you tend to get nicer stuff. tend to make more purchases, spend a little bit more money than you did before. As much as possible, especially if you're don't have a family yet, don't have kids, try to stick to somewhat of a same lifestyle as you can, as much as possible. Obviously, if you get a big payday, you're still making a lot more money than you used to make. Like, for example, I was working just an hourly job, part-time job. Well, honestly, like kind of full-time job during school. But I was making pretty good money as like a college kid, probably like $35,000 to $40,000 a year. And then this is with going to school. So I definitely had money to spend, and I definitely was very frugal with my money, but there would be some stuff I'd buy in, whatever. Like if I want to do something, then I'll go do it, just because I'm generally pretty good with my money. And then once I get my new job after graduation, I make like double the amount. So it's like all of a sudden I'm making a lot more money. Granted, I have to pay a lot more taxes. I'm contributing to a 401k and stuff like that. So you have to be, I definitely am spending more money, but I'm also saving and investing more money. So just something to be aware of. You're going to spend more money, but as much as possible, you don't have to get the nicest place. You don't have to get the flashiest car. I mean, I bought a brand new car just because of the circumstances in the market and the opportunities that I saw. But I didn't go out and buy like a Mustang or something, or a tricked out car. I bought a reasonably priced car. That's well under the average that people are spending right now. I think the average price of a car is like 40 to 50 grand, which is, mine was well under that. All right, principle number 5 of financial literacy is borrow. So knowing how to borrow, how much to borrow, when to borrow. Borrowing money is actually very important when it comes to not just buying a house or buying a car, but potentially buying businesses or buying real estate, or just doing anything in business, honestly, just because a lot of times you're not just going to have thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars to make investments into your company or into assets. So you're going to have to take on some sort of debt or leverage or borrowing money. So having good relationships with the banks that you work with, you have a good credit score, good credit history, make your payments on time, and fulfill your obligations and your liabilities, then this really sets you up really well for borrowing money and understanding how to borrow money, when to borrow money, who to borrow money from. So those are the 5 principles of financial literacy that I think are really important. Like I said, number 1, I think most people have an earning money problem, to be honest. And then once you're kind of making past a certain amount, then it's typically you have a spending problem, especially when you're not investing and saving a certain percentage of your money that you're making. And then you could also have usually what leads to a spending, or what stems from a spending problem, is a borrowing problem, because you don't have the money to pay for what you're spending, so you have to borrow money to fund the spending. Unfortunately, that's the cycle of debt. All right. So now I'm going to end off with 2 things. One thing, or those 2 things, are what poor people typically do with their money, and what rich people typically do with their money. So this is a plug. I talked about my books. Okay, so that was actually my live a couple days ago, was the 10 books every man should read in 2024. It literally comes exactly from Rich Dad Poor Dad. So Robert Kiyosaki says this all the time. Grant Cardone says this all the time. All of the finance money guys, they say this all the time as well, including myself. What poor people do with their money is they first earn their money. So, okay, they go out, they get a job or whatever. They could be making a lot of money. They could be making not so much money. And let me define the definition of poor. So poor doesn't mean you're necessarily making, this is my definition of poor. Maybe other people's definitions are different, or the government's definition or whatever. But poor does not necessarily mean you're making below a certain X amount of dollars per year. You can technically, in my definition's case, you could be making 500 grand a year. But if you're making 500 grand a year and spending 550 grand a year, you're poor. Or you're spending even 450 grand a year, you're only saving 50K a year, like you're poor. That's where net worth comes into play. It's your assets minus your liabilities. And this is a little bit different than assets minus liabilities. It's more like your net income, but like how much you're bringing in versus how much you're spending. How much money is coming in versus how much is coming out. So this isn't just poor. The term poor isn't just limited to someone not making that much money. It could be someone making millions of dollars. They just don't know how to. Principle number 3, protect their money. And principle number 2, save and invest that money. Excuse me, let me take a drink. So this is what poor people do. They earn money, then they spend money. Then whatever's left over, then they might save it. But usually whatever's left over is nothing. Because they earn money, they spend money. Once people see money in their account, the numbers on the screen, they're like, oh, I have money to spend. Whatever's left over, which is typically nothing, then they'll be like, oh, okay, I'll save after I buy this or buy that. So that is the poor people's mentality with money. That's why people get into debt trouble, just because, like I said, their spending exceeds what they're earning, and then they have to end up borrowing money to pay for what they've spent, because what they earn does not cover what they spend on. All right, so that's what poor people do. What do rich people do? Now, rich people, they do this. They still earn money, just like the poor people do. They then save and invest money. So you think of the principles of financial literacy. Number 1, earn. Number 2, save and invest. So that's exactly what they do. And then number 3, along with saving and investing, they specifically, with their investments, they buy assets that either appreciate in value over time or produce cash flow. So this term cash flow is very important. Cash flow is essentially, it's like how much cash is that asset bringing in over a certain period of time. So a lot of people, when they think of cash flow, they think of like real estate and rent cash flow. So it's like, all right, the mortgage costs X amount of dollars, the upkeep for the house and maintain the property is X amount of dollars. All right, how much I'm charging in rent, that's how much money I'm bringing in. So the income, the earning, all the expenses, the mortgage and all the other stuff I laid out as the expenses. So it's like the income, the earnings minus the expenses, then you get left with the whatever is left over. That leftover amount is the cash flow that you get a pocket. So ideally you would like to have assets that produce cash flow. Now, a lot of people think of cash flow and they'll automatically think of real estate. Real estate's not the only asset that can do this. It can be stocks, it can be bonds, it can be businesses, it can be a lot of different stuff. So you want to buy assets that produce, give you interest or pay you money every single month, every single year, etc. And then after you do that, after rich people do that, they then spend money. Obviously they have lifestyles and they have life they have to live, so they have to spend money. So they spend money that comes from those investments that they put their original cash into. The cash flow, they use that cash flow then to buy and to spend on their life. So that's the difference. And they never spend the principal. And typically the money they make from cash flow, not even from their main job or their main earnings or their main business, but from their assets, that cash flow usually exceeds what they're actually spending. So that's just what rich people do. And if you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, he talks about that. Talks all about that, assets and liabilities and how to escape the rat race and how to become financially literate. And that's kind of what Robert Kiyosaki's whole company is about. Now I have this vision for myself as well. I'd love to start like a nonprofit. I know there's probably nonprofits out there. I haven't done a ton of research on this right now or so far, but eventually I would love to do a nonprofit which like teaches kids in not as fortunate situations all around the world and teach them about financial literacy, just because I truly believe this is the the core problem with a lot of people, a lot of societal issues as well, for them not to be successful. Because I think a lot of people, they get into this, I had a live about the victim mentality. They kind of get into this society and they get told these lies of like, because of the color of your skin, or because of certain who your parents are, or because you live in a certain area, or because of this or because of that, like you can't be successful. That's not true. It might be a little bit harder, not gonna lie. There are people that are prejudiced and biased and stuff like that in life that might make it a little bit harder, but that doesn't prevent you from doing anything. So if you have the financial literacy, if you have the education is the only thing that directly correlates with how much money you make. So the more educated you are, the more likely you are to make money. That's proven by statistics. And financial literacy is exactly in there. And I would love to see, I haven't done, like I said, a ton of or a large amount of research on this, but I'd love to see kind of the more financial literacy, the more financial education that you have, the more money you make, or the higher your net worth is. That would be interesting to see. But I truly believe that, just because I see it in my own life, like several generations, just my grandparents, like grandpa, hear it from me a million times, hear it from my mom, but like he literally grew up in a shack with like dirt floors, and then to where I'm at now, I'm making I'm good money. Like I have a pretty good net worth so far for my age, and I plan to, honestly, I want to double it by next year. My plan this past year, of course, I was still in school half the year, so I didn't make as much money than I am currently with my current job. But my goal for last year was to double my net worth by the end of this year. And looking kind of at my results, what I'm sitting at right now, it's not double, but it's pretty dang close. Probably like 10 to 20K off. So it's pretty close. So by next year, I hope to even double that. And doubling that, I'll be over 6 figures net worth. So I'm super excited. That's kind of the end of the live for today. But at the end of the day, if you really master financial literacy and you understand how money works, then you can make money work for you. Because at the end of the day, everyone has 24 hours in a day. I'm all about leverage, smart leverage. Don't get me wrong. I don't leverage necessarily everything. That doesn't mean just borrow and invest in some meme coin. But if you leverage, you can leverage your assets, you can leverage your time. That way you can make money, you can be productive even when you're sleeping. Or even if eventually, no one really wants to work 24/7. Not everyone is Alex Hormozy, whose like life dream is to work his whole life for the rest of his life, every single waking hour. Like some people like enjoying stuff. I like to watch sports. I like to play sports. I like to drive cars. I like to do fun stuff, travel and stuff. I can't be working 24/7 a day. Now, obviously, you're gonna have to put in the work, and there might be certain seasons where you're working a lot or working nearly every single hour of the day. But that's a sacrifice you make at the beginning to eventually lead to a better outcome and result in the end. So eventually this is where you need to scale. This is the whole concept of economies of scale, and just scaling your business, scaling your time, scaling your money, leveraging where you can. That way you can get stuff done. You can even get 100x what you typically done by yourself, putting in all the manual work. You can do 100x in the same amount of time. That's ultimately the goal. With your money, with your time, with your results, everything. With your life. 10x your life. Grant Cardone. All right, I'll leave it at that. I'm going to head to my sister's place and have a good time with my family. Hope you guys too. See y'all tomorrow for day 4 of 6. I will come out with the topic either later tonight or tomorrow, so look out for that. You know what it is. As with everything, trying to help you guys get stronger, smarter, healthier, wealthier. Definitely wealthier than the last one. But stay tuned. Keep watching the lives. Keep looking for my tips and my social media posts, and stay pumped. All right. You know what time it is. It is time for the outro. And also, quick plug, I'm currently streaming on Rumble as well. Excuse me. So YouTube is my main channel, and then I also have Rumble. I actually have the ability to live stream on Rumble, so I'll be posting the Rumble links as well as the YouTube links. So follow me on Rumble. Definitely watch me on YouTube, but check out Rumble as well. All right, cue the outro.